Hey, Dan Cochimilio and Bora, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. Tonight we're talking about the San Francisco Giants. Bob Melvin's interview earlier this week, heard on KNBR with Murph and Marcus. We're going to break the interview down. We're going to stop and play. We're going to critique it, tell you our thoughts. Before we do all that, let us thank our sponsors of the show. That would be Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group, located in Marin, licensed in all of California. Check them out in the description of this video or this show and give them a call, 415-613-9483. Let them know NorCal Sports Network sent you. Also, Better, B-E-T-R, up there in the top right-hand corner, the daily fantasy sponsor of NorCal Sports Network. Click on the link in the description or download the app and use the promo code NCSN for a deposit match of up to $250 and a free pick. Can't beat that. $250, Bora. That's hey, man.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, man. They're
So
giving it to you.
If you put $250, Better will give you another $250. So you have $500.
Exactly, man. So if you suck on your first $250 and you lose it all, you still got another $250 to play with.
It still works with $20 too, right? So if you put $20 in,
yep,
you get $20.
Yeah, you don't have to put in $250. If you put in, I think the minimum's 10. You put in 10, they'll give you 10. You put in 75, they'll give you 75. You put in 300, they'll give you $250, up to $250 match. So, all right, guys, we are going to play some of the interview that was done by Murph and Marcus on KNBR earlier in the week. I think it was Wednesday morning show on the 22nd. And excuse me, we're going to let it play. We may stop it at some point just to comment on it. And then, of course, give us your comments in the chat. And then actually, you can even give us comments on the show afterwards. We'll have more time to respond. And then right after this show, guys, don't forget, post-game show, Warriors-Lakers, 8 o'clock tonight, roughly right about 8 o'clock, unless the game goes overtime. But we'll bring it to you right here, the live post-game with Ryan and myself. Maybe Frank Red, Lou Marston should join us, and we'll be talking Warriors-Lakers. But let's get into this, Bora. Let's let her rip. Let's play the interview, and we shall give it a listen. There we go.
So, Bob, way too early lineups. Willy Adames, is he a 3-hitter, a 4-hitter, a 5-hitter, or something else?
I said this at the press conference. The one that keeps kind of coming out is in the 2-hole. Just depending on what we do, if Wade leaves off or we put Jung-Hoo in the 3-hole, it's a good spot to put him maybe in between two lefties or vice versa. Jung-Hoo's led off for us too. So it just feels like a guy that knocked in 112 runs and, hits a bunch of homers too, that you want to get him up there as much as you possibly can. Talk to him a little briefly about it. He loves the 2-hole as well. So as we sit here right now, that's the one that's coming up the most.
Wow. And then, Bob, moving forward with the rest of the lineup, I think a lot of Giants fans have questions about first base and DH. Can you tell us what the plan is this year for Lamont Wade Jr. and Wilmer Flores?
Yeah, as we sit here right now, it looks like the tandem we went in, going into last season with, and unfortunately, Wilmer was never really healthy enough to do what Wilmer does. So he's completely healthy now. I'm looking forward to him coming back and doing his thing. And both those guys kind of understand the platoon system and embrace it. Lamont against righties and Wilmer against lefties seems like a pretty good first base situation right now. So I know Wilmer's completely healthy, looking forward to coming back and having a good year after last year being, injured most of the season.
When it comes to the DH position, do you have a preference over whether or not you'd want an everyday DH or to have the ability to use that spot to maybe give other guys rest days?
I do like to be able to rest it. It just depends on who you get. Like last year we had a Jorge Soler that fit in the DH spot for us. And sometimes that can be an acquired taste for guys, being the DH, not being out there in the field and getting the flow. But it's always nice to be able to give somebody a half a day off and, just get them the DH at bats and spread it around a little bit. So as we sit here right now, that's probably going to the way we probably go about it. There still is some time left before the season, and but I think our guys kind of look forward to that too, to be able to get off their feet a day, especially as hard as some of these guys play, like Chapman. And
all right, there we go. So we will bring this back up, the interview, but Bora, he talked about Adames in the 2-hole, which I personally like. I think that's a great spot for him. And then he talked about the lineup at first base, kind of a platoon situation with Wilmer and Wade. And then he also mentioned DH being kind of no set DH like last year with Jorge Soler, but giving different guys a shot at it, giving everybody a day off. Give us your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, he also talked about Jung-Hoo Lee in Lee's spot. He said we're thinking about batting Lee first or third. Third to me makes absolutely no sense. I don't get that thought process. If I were Bob Melvin, I would be batting Jung-Hoo Lee second. Leadoff to me doesn't make a lot of sense because he can make contact. Yeah, he doesn't strike out a lot. He also doesn't walk a ton, and he doesn't steal you bases. He's fast, but he's not a base stealer. Tyler Fitzgerald is someone I would like to see in the leadoff spot because Tyler Fitzgerald can get on base, and he is one of the fastest guys in all of baseball. And Buster Posey has said, we want Tyler Fitzgerald stealing or attempting at least 30 to 40 stolen bases this year. So I would like to see a lineup of Tyler Fitzgerald batting first. To me, my preference would be Lee batting second because if Tyler Fitzgerald can get on base and steal second, Lee has the bat control to be able to push a ball to the right side of the infield. So it's runner on third with one out. I think Lee would be a great second hitter because he has the bat control and he has the ability to put the bat on the ball and kind of splice it wherever he wants to.
Yeah, I think his strikeout rate was under 10% last year, wasn't it? 8.7 or something like that. Yeah, you need a guy, like you said, great points. He doesn't really steal a lot of bases, but Fitzgerald does. So putting Lee in the second spot, what would you do? Put Adames third?
I'd put Adames third, then Ramos fourth.
Okay, Ramos fourth. And then, man, this lineup just needs another bat. It really, really does. So he's talking about Wade batting first, though, leading off, which I guess great. He gets on base. He has a good on-base percentage, but he's no base-stealing threat. So if for some reason Adames does hit the ball on the ground at somebody, you're 2 outs right out of just boom. I don't know. I'm not crazy about the fact of, like you said, I like Adames in the second spot because I think that's probably the best position, but they don't have a true leadoff hitter and they don't have a real third, somebody to bat third if Adames is batting second. I guess you'd have to go Ramos, and then that moves up. Wow, what's the rest of the lineup? Who hits if Adames is hitting second and he's talking about Lee or Wade third, who's fourth? Ramos, who's fifth? Chapman? That's horrible. That's a horrible lineup. That's a recipe for what
disaster.
I said at the start of the last season. I said nobody's going to be intimidated by this lineup. I mean, really, all that you've done, if you think about this lineup so far this year, you're bringing Lee back into the fold, but you're basically added Adames bat and you took Conforto's bat out. I know Conforto didn't hit well at Oracle, but he was a 20 home run guy. Geez, this is not good. Again, they need Pete Alonso in the worst way. Pete Alonso, I don't know why you would go with Wade and Flores at first base, and you got a guy like Pete Alonso. You know, an interesting fact, and I will pull this up at the next segment if I can. Home runs. I was listening to Major League Baseball radio the other day. I think it was Loud Outs. They were talking about the teams that made the playoffs last year. Every team but Arizona that hit 200 home runs made the playoffs. And Arizona got basically tied for the last spot, but was knocked out by, the tiebreaker or whatever they use. So you got to hit home runs in this day and age, this game. It is, the Giants, last time they made the playoffs, what happened? They led the National League in home runs.
Exactly.
And you got
it's home runs right now in this day and age of baseball is a recipe for success. And if there's you can theoretically not hit a lot of home runs and make the playoffs, but every other part of your team has to be pretty much perfect. You have to be really elite at base running. You have to be really elite at fielding, elite at pitching, elite at hitting with runners in scoring position. And if you don't have that, then you don't you're not going to be able to make the playoffs. So if you cannot hit home runs, every other aspect of your team has to be pretty much perfect. The home run aspect of the game allows you to not have to be perfect at every other aspect, because a home run, if you have runners on first and second, you don't necessarily need a bunt. You don't necessarily need a double steal. You can just hit it out of the ballpark, and that's three runs. So
yeah, exactly. Well, let's go on to the next part of the interview and hear from the questions here from Murph and Marcus.
I think there's a lot of value in that as well.
With the signing of Justin Verlander, do you have an idea of how the rotation is going to line up, or would you say there's still open competition going into spring training?
You always want some open competition, but as you sit here right now, with Harrison and Hicks too, and Birdsong kind of, is kind of a sixth guy or fifth or sixth or whatever. But you want to go into camp and say, hey, look, there's spots on the team to be made. But it does give us a deeper rotation. And over the course of the season, like you said, a lot of times the roster doesn't look anything like it does in April, like it does in August or September. So having depth in the rotation is huge for us. And that's one of the other aspects that Justin brings to us.
A guy people aren't really talking about, you just mentioned, and we had him up at FanFest in Napa, and that's Jordan Hicks. I think his last year statistically wasn't awesome. And he kind of bounced between, I believe he made 20 starts, which is actually more than I would have said. He only threw 109 innings, which is nice. 109 is good. But like realistically, he said to us in Napa, because I'm trying to make 30 starts this year. Like, whoa. So, we're talking like, can you talk about, like, is this guy the X factor and what can he do to kind of make that leap? He talked about legs, strengthening his legs and running a lot. Maybe can you explain, like, counting on him when he hasn't really done it? Can you talk about that strategy?
Well, I think last year was just all new for him. And early in the season, he was really good. He kind of, got a little tired and so forth, and body felt a little different, and, losing some weight and so forth. And you kind of learn how to be a starter again. So I think that's what took place last year. But if you remember in April and May, man, when he took the mound, we felt really good about winning the games. And they were typically low-scoring games. And when he came out, we either had a lead or it was close. So I think this year he just learns a lot from last year, and no restrictions on him this year. Just go out and do your thing. It starts with the mindset. And I think, in listening to some of his comments, he's really incentivized to go out there and be a true starter from start to finish this year.
You had mentioned Justin Verlander earlier and the leadership and experience he's bringing to this rotation. We don't have to go through his resume. This guy is a living Hall of Famer. We've seen the postseason success. Bob, you've been a part of it when you were manager of the Oakland A's.
I told him he's going to run laps first day of spring training.
No, man, this is like
but just talk to us about the type of competitor that Verlander is on the mound in those postseason matchups, and how maybe that can help out with the development of this younger staff.
Without a doubt. There's just, guys like him, obviously has great stuff, but it's the competitiveness that makes him who he is. And you just, you feel it in the dugout when he's on the mound. On the other side, it's like, when we were playing the Tigers or whatever, it was like you look at the matchups and you hope you don't see Verlander. And, he's just a guy that when he takes the mound, the team feels great about going out there and feels like you're going to win a game. And the other dugout, you're up against it. So he's done that for a long time and continues to be really incentivized to do it. So it's a lot of stuff that our younger guys can learn, that there's just an aspect of a presence. And, that's really good for the guys like Birdsong and Harrison and some of our younger guys for sure.
Even Hicks at Napa mentioned being around Adam Wainwright and
right.
and how he's thinking Verlander will do the same thing. A couple more minutes here with Bob Melvin. Just so many things to talk about. So exciting with spring training next week or next month in Scottsdale. And then, of course, FanFest this Saturday down in San Jose at San Pedro Square. Marcus will be down there, and Bob Melvin will be there among many others.
Okay, so let's give it a break there. He talked about the rotation and what did it start out with? It was I'm trying to remember.
It was where do you see the rotation playing out with after the Verlander signing? And he asked about competition. He asked about Hayden Birdsong and Jordan Hicks.
Right.
And I don't agree with the assessment of Hayden Birdsong at all. To me, if you look at the stats, Hayden Birdsong's stats weren't great. But what I saw using the eye test was a guy who has elite stuff. He has a top of the line fastball. His changeup is really good. His 12-6 curve is really good. To me, he has ace potential stuff. And I don't know what the idea is here with making him like the back end of the sixth man. If you're gonna not have him in the starting rotation, you might as well give him reps in Sacramento, because not having him throw isn't going to do him any favors. To me, I would personally, I would just have an open competition between Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, and Hayden Birdsong. And the loser, if Jordan Hicks loses that, he goes to the bullpen. If Kyle Harrison loses that, he shouldn't lose that. But if he somehow loses that, I would see if you can if he's gets anything on the trade market. Because I've said it so many times, and I'm going to say it again. When I look at Kyle Harrison's stuff, I don't really see it. I don't see the ace potential. Maybe he's a 2 or a 3. But to me, I don't see the ace potential stuff, and his value is at an all-time high right now. So I would be looking to sell high. I like Hayden Birdsong a lot. Jordan Hicks, I think, should be in the bullpen. I just don't understand this. He's making $11 million a year. They're paying Taylor Rogers, I think, about 11, somewhere along the lines of that. What's the issue with solidifying the back end of your bullpen and making it an elite back end of the bullpen? You have Jordan Hicks, Ryan Walker, and Camilo Doval. That's elite.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you should have a really good back end of the bullpen?
I am. Yeah, it's such a surprise, right?
What a concept. What a concept. I seems to me that teams that have great bullpens make playoffs, and some of them win the World Series because the bullpen is crucial. You can have a back end of the bullpen of Hicks, Doval, and Walker, and that doesn't even count the Rogers, who's used to pitching the 7th or 8th in Tyler Rogers. So move him up to the 6th, and you get, maybe you got Taylor Rogers in there. You got what's the lefty? Is it Miller? Am I forgetting his name? Eric Miller. You've
Randy
got some
Rodriguez is coming back.
Rodriguez,
he looks pretty good.
I mean, yeah, you can have a stellar bullpen, and Jordan Hicks is not a starting pitcher. Yes. Can he start? Yes. Can he give you some good outings? Yes. But he's not going to be long for the season. And exactly what I said would happen last year happened. I said Jordan Hicks will not make it through the season as a starter. And I said my fear is that he gets hurt or he wears himself out and he's not useful to the bullpen when he finishes his number of innings that he can go. And exactly happened. He got his arm hurt. He wasn't used to pitching like that, and they're going to do it again. What's the definition of insanity, Bora? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the San Francisco Giants continue to do this, and we're going to listen to a little bit more, and we're going to hear about what the Giants are going to do when it comes to the outfield, and that is something that has me a little upset, and let's play that right now.
outfield. We saw Elliot Ramos make the leap to becoming an all-star last year. You mentioned Jung-Hoo Lee as potential leadoff hitter or number 3 hitter, and that leads the right field position, unless Elliot Ramos moves over to right field also. But for that third outfield position, are we looking at a competition maybe between Yaz, Grant McCray, and Luis Matos?
Yeah, look, it could be a platoon out there. You know, Yaz is used.
You're muted.
Hold it. Did he say platoon?
Did he use that word? It's
He
the
used
P
the
word.
word platoon. Oh my gosh, it could be another platoon. How long are we going to do this? Yes, the eternal platooner. Oh my goodness, this is going nowhere, guys. This, you know, I don't use the word P too much, but this pisses me off. I mean, come on. You're going to bring in, Bora, what percentage of pitchers in baseball are right-handed?
70, right? Isn't it 70?
Right about 70. Roughly 2/3, 66 to 70, right in there. That means you're going to see Yaz 2/3 of the time, and you're going to stunt another kid in Luis Matos. This is what they would have done with Ramos last year if they called him up because there was only one injury. They started him because they didn't have any outfielders. But if he was just replacing Slater, for example, he would have platooned. And you would have never had an all-star in Elliot Ramos. So, San Francisco Giants, can you stop with the dang platooning, please? I've had enough of it. How old is Yaz? He's 34, I believe, going to be 35 in the middle of the season. Is he part of the future? No, he's a free agent after this year. And how about Matos? Do we know if he can do the job or not? We really don't know because he's never been given a full shot. He hit 250 his rookie year, which is pretty good 2 years ago. Last year, he won Player of the Week, tearing the ball off taking the cover off the ball, ripping 18 RBIs in a week. And then he goes into a slump. And what does Farhan, the idiot, do? Sends him down. I am so sick of this organization not playing the young guys and letting them play it out. You know what? Give him a full year. If he doesn't make it, move on. But you know Yaz is not your future.
Yaz is not the deciding factor between you making the playoffs and missing the playoffs. He's just not that impact player. He's been on the team, 5-6 years. He hasn't proven himself. He hasn't proven to be an impact player enough for him to have the role of being a starting right fielder, in my opinion. I mean, if you sign Yaz for $9.5 million like they did, that's a substantial amount, $9.5 million. When you sign Yaz for $9.5 million, just make him the starter. I'm fine. Just make him the starter, and then you can trade Matos or do whatever you want with Matos to give him the reps. Why are you platooning him with Matos? That stunts Matos' growth even more because he's not getting the full reps. He's only getting the reps against left-handed pitching, and 70% of the league is right-handed pitchers. So if you want Matos to be an everyday bat for you in the future, he needs to get the reps against right-handed pitching. He can't just be another Austin Slater. I mean, you mentioned it, Dan, with Elliot Ramos. They completely lucked into Elliot Ramos. Farhan had no clue what was happening, and Ramos just was like, okay, wow, Ramos is an all-star. Who would have thought? I mean, and this could be the same thing that happens with Matos. Matos just won the Rookie of the Year in the Dominican or Venezuela, wherever he was playing for winter ball. He just won the Rookie of the Year award. Give him a shot to make this team and be the starter. I mean, I don't understand why Yaz has this autonomy to just be the starter. It doesn't make any sense. He's a good defender. He's an average hitter. That doesn't inspire anybody.
Yeah, and Matos has struck out 57 times in 409 plate appearances over his career. That's 13.9%. So he's under 14%. Do you know what Yaz's strikeout rate is in his 6 years of the big leagues?
Is it 27, I want to say?
I will add it up for you right now. 2,581 plate appearances. He has struck out 25.45% of the time. So almost 2 times as much. And what did Melvin say in the offseason? They want to work at cut and Buster. We want to find guys that, we got to cut down on the strikeouts. Mm-hmm. Well, Yaz is going to be 35 in August of this year. He turns 35, guys, on August 23rd. So, and this is just, look, if you're saying you're platooning him, that means Matos is not going to get the at-bats unless there's injuries, because he's facing left-handers. And it's just proven that the majority of pitchers, 65 to 75%, are right-handed. So here we go again, and I'm just fed up with it. But let's get back to the interview and hear some more.
Used to that as well, and Gerard Encarnacion's another name too. So we have some depth there. All those guys played really well at times last year. Matos is having a great winter ball again. You always want that competition in spring training. So, Yaz is probably the left-handed version of it. We'll see where it goes with Grant. He's mostly a center fielder with Jung-Hoo coming back, but he'll play anywhere that we ask him to. And over the course of the season, you're going to need some depth there too. So we feel really good about it. You always want to create a runway for some of your younger guys with, to get not only some experience, but to get a chance to win a job. And as you saw last year, Matos at times was really good. He was player of the week one week, and Encarnacion has a lot of power. He can play a little first base as well. So we feel good about the depth in the outfield.
All right, next we're going to get into Bryce Eldridge. We're going to talk about Bryce Eldridge. Any more thoughts on the platooning and McRae and Encarnacion he mentioned?
I don't know. It's kind of a clown show. I don't understand the thought process behind it. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, let's go on to Bryce Eldridge.
Bob, I know your concern is the 25-man, 26-man roster in opening day, but there's a guy in the minors whose Giants fans are obsessed with. His name is Bryce Eldridge. He's young, and he's getting all the accolades from all the talent evaluators down there. How much is he on your radar? I mean, like I said, I know you got the major league roster, and he's in the minors, and that's up to Kyle Haynes and Randy Wynn and that crew. But what's the Bob Melvin, Bryce Eldridge relationship?
Well, you met him for the first time the other day at Papago. He's a big guy, and there's a presence to him. Now, you look at the numbers he puts up, you look at the swing, and you know that there's a chance that this guy can be a star. And I think if you look at our offseason too, there's a reason that we didn't go all in at first base, because we'll see how far away this guy is. We like the combination we have right now, but this guy's going to be a force for us for years to come. When that is, I'm not sure yet. I mean, you don't want to put too much pressure on him and say, hey, look, we expect you to be there at some point in time. I know he's thinking that way, but we'll see where this year goes. He's probably not going to start with us to begin with. He needs a little bit more, maybe defensively and so forth. And you need some at-bats and development before you get to the big leagues. But this guy's got a chance to be a real star. No question.
Well, we got to go rapid fire. The very important things finishing up here.
All right, there we go. And I just got, the only shot you have is if Flores and Wade go down and Encarnacion's down, and they need a first baseman, Bora. Looks like Bora and I have a little friendly wager, that he says Bryce Eldridge and Los. I'm going to collect both Los and Bora. Yes.
It ain't over till it's over.
So I will collect $40, and I'll probably have to pay Lou $44 if the Warriors don't come through and win 44 games. So, and by the way, Lakers post game coming up right after this show, guys. Bora, we heard it from Eldridge pretty much, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to put a bunch of pressure on him. I don't think they should. I think they should let him develop, and when he's ready and he knocks the door down, let it open wide and have him come in.
I have some mixed thoughts on this. To me, and Cody said this a lot, the only hurdle or obstacle, I should say, that is stopping Bryce Eldridge from being on the major league roster, and Will Clark has said this as well, is the defense. The defense isn't up to par yet, and that can be an issue, especially when you have Matt Chapman and Willy Adames. Chapman's won 5 Gold Gloves. I don't know if Willy Adames has won a Gold Glove, but
not sure if he has.
He's a pretty good defender. I think he's an above average defender. So if you have these above average to elite defenders, you need someone who can be able to play the first base position well, and you need someone who can be able to scoop the ball. Now, Eldridge being 6'7" definitely helps, but he does need to improve his defensive work. And if he does that, I feel like the bat's major league ready. That's just my thoughts. I know a lot of other people have different thoughts. I guess the organization has different thoughts. But to me, if he comes into camp and he's just obliterating the ball, and he's proven that he's not even an average defender, if he's a below average defender, he just has to be a below average defender, because that's what Lamont Wade is. Lamont Wade isn't an average defender. Lamont Wade is a little below average. So if he can prove that he's fine at first base, nothing special, just fine, he can get the job done, and he's mashing in spring training, I would just give him the job. Because Flores and Wade that's not exciting anybody in the organization, in the ownership, in the fan base. No one is excited about that. Lamont Wade and Wilmer Flores 40 time. It might be 6. I mean, it's bad. Both of those guys are super slow. They're not athletic. Eldridge is 20 years old right now. He's athletic. He's young. He can bring a spark to this team to potentially, and I hate saying this, potentially push for a wild card spot and a playoff spot. Because, I mean, look at Jackson Merrill last year for the Padres. He was
20.
He was 20.
Yeah.
He didn't get.
Should have been rookie of the year, in my opinion. But nothing against Paul Skeens, but Merrill was playing out there every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
So, but good points, Bora. Good points. We'll see. I hope Eldridge is everything that the fans and the team is saying he is. Now, one of the things the Giants need, we talked about it earlier in the show, was home runs. And let's take a look at last year's home run teams. And we see the Yankees right there at the top. I don't know if you could see that. Is that coming in clear enough?
That's good. That's perfect.
Okay. So the Yankees, playoffs, Orioles, playoffs, Dodgers, playoffs, Braves, playoffs, Diamondbacks tied for the playoffs, but got knocked out on the tiebreaker. Mets, playoffs, Phillies, playoffs. The A's, that's an aberration there. Red Sox, they didn't make it. Astros, playoffs. Padres, playoffs. Guardians, playoffs. Twins, playoffs. And then the Brewers, playoffs. But the rest of the team, we had the Royals, were not a home run hitting team, make the playoffs. The Tigers, another team, made the playoffs. Kind of unusual, but the one thing this does tell me, if you hit 200 home runs, you got a really, really good chance of making the playoffs. How many of the Giants hit last year? 177. Can you look up Flores for me, or how many he hit last year real quick while we're doing this? And yes. I will look up Lamont Wade.
He hit 4 home runs, yes,
so
last year.
4 for Flores, and for Lamont Wade, he hit 8. So 12. So 12 of the ones that I don't know if anybody else played first base that hit one. Maybe Encarnacion hit 1 or 2. Let's say they got 15 out of the position. What happens if you got 35? That's plus 20 out of Pete Alonso. Now you're, instead of 177, you're at 197. And then Willy Adames adds, he hit over 30. How many did they get out of shortstop last year? Fitzgerald hit 15.
Yeah, but how many did they get out of second base? Because Estrada did not produce. He didn't hit home runs. Yeah. Who else played second base? Mitt, maybe for a couple games. Wisely didn't hit home runs.
He hit a couple. But yeah, you could probably add, if you added Alonso and you already have Adames, I bet you that's a plus 40 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two positions. So that would give you 170. That would give you what? 217?
Yeah.
Yes.
217.
So let's say they added plus 30, 207. The Giants have a really good shot at making the playoffs with home runs. So why aren't they going out and getting Pete Alonso?
Because they want to stay under the oh so incredible CBT.
Yeah, and they can do that, Bora. All they got to do is move off of Yaz, and they're there. They've still got like 15 million left, 15 or 20.
They have
And
20 million left. If they get rid of Yaz, that's 9 million. They'd have 29 million. And Pete Alonso
Alonso's
right
not
now
going to cost you more than 25 at the most.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Giants. We just helped you try and get into the playoffs. We just showed you you'll actually hit over 200 home runs if you add Pete Alonso. And I just showed you the numbers for the home runs. And I'll read them again. Yankees 237, Orioles 235, Dodgers 233, Braves 213, Diamondbacks 211. They didn't make it. Mets 207. They made it. Phillies 198. They made it. Okay. Anybody who hit 200 home runs, the least number of games a team won last year was 89. And they didn't make that was the Diamondbacks. The Mets 189, the Braves 189. I don't remember what the Dodgers were. I think they were just under 100. The Orioles were over 90, Yankees over 90. So guys, that's the game today. Today's game is hitting home runs. So I don't know why you don't go out and get him. I bet you if he ends up with Toronto makes a really good run as a playoff team next year or this coming year, because they would have Vladdy, possibly Alonso. They've got Santander. They got Springer, Bichette's coming back. I mean, shoot, got to go out and get those guys. So guys, we do appreciate you watching this tonight. Again, right after we finish this, we're going to be coming on with the Warriors and the Lakers pregame. Don't forget to tune in. It'll be a separate link. So come back for that. Enjoy it. And we will be back after this postgame tonight. Then we'll be back sometime tomorrow. And don't forget to check out our videos. Thanks for watching. Oops, I'm hitting the play, but it's not going. What's going on? What happened to our music? I don't know. Maybe it's the volume's down. I bet you. Oh, that's it. There it is. There we go. All right, guys. Thank you so much again for watching, and we will see you a little later. Don't forget to watch Warriors Lakers. Take care, everybody.